recording and share. So welcome everyone to today's intuitive listening webinar. The topic tonight is Words Matter, and I'm Cindy Myers. And we're going to get going here. So here are a few things we're going to cover today with this topic. I'm going to just kind of cover a little intro stuff, and then we're going to get into emotions and how they're related to words. We're going to talk a bit about the lizard brain versus the conscious brain and how we can change the habits that are created by our lizard brain. So with that, here's my little disclaimer. If you're not feeling well, call your doctor. If you are having a medical emergency, please call 911. I do not diagnose illnesses, but what I do is support you and your body so its natural healing abilities can work alongside your traditional medical practices. Okay, so one of the most common questions I get asked is, when did I know I could do this work, and was I born with it? And the answer is kind of yes and no for some of it. I knew that I was, people love to tell me their problems since I was a little girl, very adult problems being told to a very young child. People always have liked to talk to me about their stuff. So I've always been a good listener. But I didn't realize that I was empathic until I was much older. I was probably in my 30s that I started realizing that I was picking things up, not only emotionally, that I was a good listener, but that I was actually picking up physical stuff, people's physical issues that I was feeling in my body. You know, I'd be sitting in my office, or it was a lot of it came working while I was working at the base as an engineer, and people would come into my office and like to tell me their problems. So they would tell me, what hurt or what didn't hurt. And, they had a headache, they had a backache, whatever. And I'm going, oh, yeah, me too. And then when they leave, I go, oh, me not too, because it would go away. So it happened often enough that I started cluing in. It was like, these people come in, and before they came in, I felt okay. They came in, I didn't feel okay. When they left, I felt okay again. And so I went, this is really strange, and I don't understand it, and I have no idea who to talk to, because I sure don't want to tell people that I work with, because I work for the Navy, and I don't want to lose my clearance because people might think I'm crazy. So I kind of found somebody in one of these little shops that sell New Age books and crystals and things. I just walked in one that I found one day, and kind of browsing around, and the clerk asked if she could help me, and I said maybe, and described what I was experiencing. And she was very generous with explaining exactly what was going on with me and normalizing it, so it wasn't quite so scary. And she gave me a couple tools on how to protect myself and be able to deal with it. And that was absolutely, really a life-altering moment, walking into that little shop and getting that advice from this woman. And what it turned from being something scary to going, gosh, wouldn't this be cool if I could learn how to use it and to be a benefit to not only myself but to others. And so I started a lifelong journey of studying how the stuff works, and now I've actually turned it into a business and sharing that information with all of you. So appreciate you all coming on today so that I can share some of what I've learned along the way. So let's talk about the topic about words matter. And to start with, before we get into the words part, we kind of have to understand the emotion piece of the words. And so we're going to focus on the emotions that tend to get stuck in our bodies, which are the negative emotions. And so how does that happen, and why does that happen? Emotions, if we break them down, they're really just chemicals in our bodies. And if we break them down into their molecular and atomic level, they're really just energy. And emotions then put out a frequency. And I'm being an engineer that used to work on radars, I would really be sensitive to frequencies. And negative emotions, I've discovered, are very slow moving, a low frequency signature to them. And so they're more likely to get stuck in our bodies because they're moving more slowly. Positive emotions, on the other hand, are very fast moving and they don't get stuck. So they come in, we know what to do with them, and then they actually help heal our tissues instead of staying stuck in them. And because there's a frequency related to them, there's also an electromagnetic component to them. So they act like a little magnet. Once they get stuck, guess what? Then they like to attract other like frequencies, emotions to that spot. They say, come here, you're a little depressed. I know where to put the next depression emotion you're going through. Let's put it in that left elbow, because that's where this one got stuck first. So we're going to keep putting it in that left elbow. So understanding, so these emotions will actually get stuck in our tissues, just like if we overeat and eat more calories than what we can burn off in a day. If we have more emotions than we can burn off in a day, they go into our tissues just like food calories go into our tissues. And they can cause problems. They can cause physical issues. Like I said, they can actually get stuck in your elbow, in your liver, in your kidney, in your wherever. They can get stuck in every part of our body. And so I'm able to identify where those emotions are and help get rid of them. And we're going to do that later in some demos for you, if you'd like. But for this topic, we want to understand how these emotions work. So the negative emotions, again, have a low frequency component to them. So how does that relate to words? Okay. Well, when we use our words, we're actually, they're not just separated by our emotions. They're intertwined with our emotions. We're reliving an experience. We have something we can relate to when we tell a story, when we're explaining something. Those words have an emotional component to them. And so how we use those words and what words we use will also have an emotional piece to them. So when we choose certain words, we can choose words that have a negative emotional component to them or a positive emotional component to them. And so that's one piece. And I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. So, and it kind of relates to the law of attraction a little bit as well. I have an alpaca farm. And so if I go out to my alpacas and they're in a little cantankerous mood and they're spitty or they want to kick, and they like to do that when I feed, they get a little randy about it all and get excited. And usually they get a little upset with each other because they think that's their pellets and not somebody else's. So they get a little spitty. And I used to say, don't spit. I don't want them. I don't want it. I don't want that on me, right? So I say, don't spit. So what happens? They spit on me. They did exactly the opposite of what I was asking them to do. Or was I? Because they don't hear the negative. They just hear the word spit. So they say, oh, you want me to spit? I'll spit. So when I realized that my words mattered and how I asked things, so I shifted it to a more positive language, and I said, keep it in your mouth. Because that's really what I want them to do. I want to keep that stuff in their mouth. And now, 9 times out of 10, that's exactly what they do. If I use don't spit, I get spat at 9 times out of 10. So choosing our words carefully is one piece of how, of this words matter puzzle that we're talking about. And then there's another piece that's even more important, or just as important. And it's kind of, it's a little more, well, let's see if I got it here. Yeah, it's the part that makes the habits. So When we have an emotional experience, especially a negative one, negative emotions have, in my theory of it, is that there's a component of fear in almost every negative emotion. And when we talk about fear, we're talking about the fight or flight response system. When we That fight or flight response system is in our reptilian brain, and it's very reactive. There's no time to think about it. We're not in our thinking brain. There's just no time. You have to react. If a deer jumps in front of your car, you don't have time to think about what you're going to do or anything. You just better either apply the brakes, whatever you need to do, you need to do now, right? Um, so that's the fight or flight response system. It's very reactive. Once you go through some of these more, and if it's a really traumatic experience, or any kind of experience, if we survive it in our fight or flight response system, hey, we survived whatever we did by doing that method. That's worth noting. So the next time I have that experience, I'm going to repeat that habit because it worked for me. I stayed alive. And so guess what? Habits are created in that fight or flight response system. And a lot of times those habits, if they're associated with these fear state negative emotions, they can be undesirable habits. They can be not to our best interest in the long run. It may think that first time it saved us, but the more times we repeat it, you know what? Every time we're stressed out, if you go to the wine, to the alcohol, to the cigarette, whatever that habit is that you've created that may not be positive, guess what? It gets reinforced and reinforced, and it's not a positive habit. It's not saving us. It may feel good in the moment a little bit. It just kind of gives us a sense of relief, but in the long term, it's not beneficial to us in any way, shape, or form, right? So, but they're really hard to break. They're very hard habits to break. Those are kind of obvious ones that we don't realize that we're doing. A lot of our thoughts during the day can be run by this reptilian brain of ours, the lizard. I call it the lizard brain. And so some of these habits, I'm going to say this again, some of our habits are created by our lizard brain, and it is completely reactive. When we go into our lizard brain habit, we are not in our thinking brain. We are just doing it. And that's why they're so hard to break, is because we're in that non-thinking brain. So we want to become aware of the words. Our words are going to be our first clue that sometimes that we're going into our lizard brain, because they can be really subtle. It's not the obvious stuff of the deer jumping into our headlight. Oh my God, my heart's really racing hard because something really shocking just happened, and now I need to calm myself down because my heart's really racing. Those are obvious. What we don't realize is how many subtle thoughts in the day are being run by our lizard brain. And those are the ones we really want to start cluing into. So one of the best ways, and I said the words of mattering, that matter. There's one key word that I think most of us use an awful lot, and it is a good word to listen for, and it's the word need. So you remember that game, the password password game from, I guess I'm dating myself, but it was a fun game, TV show game, and we had it as kids. And and the password is need. so we wanted to clue in for that word. Okay, we want to clue into that word need. So when we say, I need to go do my taxes, I need to vacuum, whatever it might be, I need to go do something. And you say that word need, and do you go do that? Chances are a lot of times you don't go do whatever you just said you need to do. So your lizard brain is saying one thing. You have this list of things you want to do, and you say, I need to do them all, but your lizard brain is sabotaging you. Saying, nah, you don't want to do that. So this morning, or yesterday morning, I wanted to go to the swimming pool. My lizard brain kicked in and said, oh, but you have this and this and this and this and this thing to do. You really don't have time to go swim. But I heard the word need, because I was buying into going, yep, I really do have all those things I have to do. But I heard the word need, and I said, ooh, that's lizard brain talking. And then I thought about it. I took a few deep breaths and I thought about it and I go, but I have time to do those things. I have time to get to the pool. If I get going right now, I have time to go swim and I'll feel better and I'll be more productive going to swimming. And then I heard in my lizard brain tried again, and it said, "Oh, but it's cold out. You don't want to go out because it's so cold out. You have to go, and then you have to change, and then you have to do this, and then you have to do that." And it came up with lots of excuses why I didn't want to go to the pool. And I had to listen because that was my reactionary brain trying to take over what I knew what was best for me, which was get to the swimming, go release some of my energy that I need to do to self-care so that I can do my work, and I'm much more productive and I'm much more effective at what I do if I can go and do my exercise and swim in the swim pool. And so I listened to that and I went, no, I don't want lizard brain making this choice. I'm going swimming. And I made it to the pool. It shut down and I was fine. And I did exactly what was better for me in the big picture, okay? In the small and the big picture. I changed the habit that, a couple of years ago would have won out no problem. And had won out no problem. I had tried swimming regularly for years and years and years and was never consistent. It was one of those New Year's resolutions. Did it for 6 weeks or so, and then it fell apart. Now I've been swimming for over a year regularly, can get to the pool. Lizard brain is very rare about convincing me not to get to the pool. Okay. So it's learning how to recognize it. And the key word to really start honing in is need. So there's two things about words that matter from this webinar that I really want you guys to kind of take home and think about. It's choosing our words carefully. That's one piece. But it's also listening to the words that we're using and start recognizing when it's lizard brain talking to us and being that reactionary unconscious brain versus our conscious brain. So lizard brain is reactive. We're not in our conscious thinking mind when we are using lizard brain. And one of the best ways to know that lizard brain is taking over, it's going into the driver's seat and pushing us in the back seat, and it is driving the car. It's making the decisions for us. It is making your choices for you, this unconscious brain. Do we really want that unconscious lizard brain making that choice for us, or do we want to go into our conscious brain? And that's where thinking is allowed. Okay, then we can think about how we choose our words and what we want to do with ourselves. Do I want to get to the swimming pool? Yes or no? Okay, so be aware of it and listen for the word need. There's other words, but that's probably your best one for right now to listen to, and it's the one that you most likely use the most often. If you hear yourself use the word need, for right now, the best thing is that start recognizing that you're going into lizard brain. How often are you going into lizard brain? Start just becoming aware how often you're getting thrown into the back seat of the car instead of driving the car. Okay. So, wow, that was a nice short short but really important. So I hope you guys have some questions on this, because I really want you guys to, this is life-changing stuff, learning some of these tools on how to do that. And I didn't get into some of the other techniques. So one of them was to, before we get into the thank you and into the Q&A part, what I wanted you also to think about, and I'm going to exit out of this right now and stop sharing so I can just talk to you guys, is a tool, one of the tools I want you to learn to do when you recognize, you hear yourself say need, to put an interrupt so that you can get into your thinking brain. Oh, hi, Wiley. is to breathe. Okay, I want you to breathe and take nice deep breaths. I like to do my breathing in fours technique, where you take in a deep breath on the count of 4, hold it for a count of 4, and then release for a count of 4. Just breathing fully helps put an interrupt in that lizard brain taking over. So if you hear the word need, take a few deep breaths. And again, we got to keep these techniques really simple. They might seem kind of mindless and all that, but they're really important, and they have to be easy because you're really going into that reactionary brain where you can't think. So we have to have it simple. So breathing, everybody can do it. So breathing deeply is one of them, okay? And then the second one is, once you do your breathing and maybe can start thinking, is do a few gratitudes. Do about 3 or 4 things you're grateful for. And it doesn't even have to pertain to whatever the issue is that you're trying to talk yourself one way or the other. If lizard brain is trying to say, don't go to the pool, and your thinking brain is saying, go to the pool. If you do some gratitudes, what it does is they're high frequency emotions. Again, negative emotions are very low frequency. Gratitudes are very high frequency emotions. They're triggering, instead of the fight or flight response system, they're triggering the parasympathetic response system, which is calming. It's calming, and it'll allow you to get to your thinking brain. Once you get into that calmer state, you can access your thinking brain. And then you can start saying, well, I don't want to do that because I know why I want to go to the pool, and I know exactly why it's better for me, and that's what I'm going to go do. And your lizard brain goes, okay, I'm not driving anymore. You're back in charge. So that's what we want to do. And those are your 2 techniques that you can use that are super easy. Listen for the word need, do some deep breathing, and then do a few gratitudes. And it only takes about 2 minutes before you can feel the shift of your energy. Usually less than 2 minutes. If you do the breathing and the gratitudes, you will release out of the fight or flight response system, and you'll be in that thinking brain, and you'll feel calmer about making these different decisions. Not complex stuff, and it's not hard. And then you can start making better, happier, healthier habits for yourself. It takes a little bit of time to create the new habit, but this technique has worked, and I tell you, I've tried lots of different things. I've tried muscling my way out. I've tried, oh my gosh, I've tried hypnosis. I've tried a whole lot of things to change my habits. And it's these techniques that have been the most productive and most effective in changing some of my habits. So it really does work. So with that, I hope some of you have some questions or would like some demo readings. I will demonstrate for some of you. If you would like to have some releases, we can do that for you. I see most folks are on the phone. I don't think you have access. You can try it, but I don't have, it doesn't look like I have that capability of letting you speak. And I don't believe you have the ability to type in the chat. So I apologize for that, but that's Zoom. I don't have any say in that. But for those of you on your computer, Zoom, you might be able to talk. So I'm going to see if any of you would like to try it. Tracy, let's see if you, hi Tracy. I don't know if you have voice capability. Hi, Tracy. If you're muted on your end, I don't know. If you have a wish to try getting a release, I can do that for you. If not, how about Gail? Hi, Gail. I'm going to try unmuting you. Hi, Gail. Are you there?
Yes. How are you doing?
Hi. So, anything I can try releasing for you? Oh,
Sure.
okay. Tracy does have chat capability. I will come back to you, Tracy. So, Gail. So, is there anything specific that you would like me to try focusing in on, or do you want a general one?
I'd like you to look into my shoulder area. I do a lot of grooming and so forth, and oftentimes that left shoulder really bothers me. So I wondered if there was anything related to a trapped emotion there.
Okay. The left shoulder. Just also feel, I can feel it. Sometimes I can, by pressing on things, I can feel where the exact, oh, right there. So I don't know if you can see me, but I'm
Oh, yeah.
there. You
Yep.
can focus on that spot on yourself. Do you feel it?
Yes.
Okay, there's a bit of an ouch right there. So let's try releasing that. So right now, with that on a discomfort scale, on pain scale, on a for 1 to 10, where would you say that's at for you?
That's about a 9.
So let's. Um, okay, I'm gonna. Do you want the age? Do you want the age it was trapped?
Yes.
So the other thing I can do when I release these trapped emotions, I can identify when that trapped emotion was originally stored in your tissues. For those who haven't experienced this before, it's different with animals. Animals don't think of time the same, but for humans, I can tell you the age. So the emotion is worthless and age 48.
Mm.
It feels like a knot there. Do you feel that?
Oh, very much so. It almost goes to my sternum.
Yeah.
Very tight.
Um. Let's do. It's eased off a little bit, but let me do another. Oh, right there. Ouch. Okay. Another one. Okay. Whoa. I don't know if that was you or me, Gail. Or somebody's calling. Um, lack of control. 16, age 16.
Mm.
Okay, now let me check in. Did it shift at all, that pain?
Yes, definitely.
And where on a scale 1 to 9 are you at now?
I would say I'm about a 5.
5. So we dropped it down. Let's see if we can do a little bit more. Oh, that's still too much. Mm, panic. Oh, isn't that interesting from a conversation we had earlier? uh, it's current, your current age.
Interesting.
Okay, now feel it again. Oh, there was the release I was looking for.
Yeah, I feel like it's my shoulder dropped down. They were kind of like underneath my ears. So I feel like it's,
On a scale of 1 to 10, where is it at now?
I would say it's a 4.
Down a little bit more. So some of this will keep moving down. Some of it, but we went from a 9 to a 4.
Mm.
Drinking some water to help flush that out.
Mm.
And do you know how to do T-touch? So just keep doing some T-touches in that spot because that there's still that little nodule there, and I think you can release more of it with some T-touch.
Thank you.
So for folks that don't know what T-touch is, it's another modality that I'm not certified in, but it's a really effective. that I use with dogs, well, with animals, and on myself, and recommend it to people. It's capital T and then touch, and it's modality created by Linda Tellington Jones, and you can go uh, Google that information on how to do it on YouTube, and it's very simple, and it's just very soothing. It's just a really light touch, and you do like a circle and a quarter with a real light touch. And it just helps. Again, what it does also is trigger that parasympathetic response system, which is calming. And it also accesses things at a cellular level. It's different than when we massage something and work something out, with deep tissue kind of massaging. It's very different than that. The massaging is actually more exciting. So for animals that I'm working with, or people that are have a lot of PTSD issues, anxiety. Uh, I don't want them more excited, and the massaging is actually an exciting kind of uh, at the tissue level. It's exciting it, which it could trigger your fight or flight response system, the adrenaline, and we don't want that. We want the other stuff. So I like using the T touch because it's very calming, all the way down into this at the cellular level. So I encourage Gail to do that with that spot, and that should help release that a little bit more. So that's that's the amazing stuff with these releases. And then when we can, sometimes when we're working together on the phone and in going over these, you'll have some memories over, especially with the ages, what experience may have happened at that time, and that's where some of these habits get created that take over, like I was talking about, that lizard brain. Again, like for Gail, she had one that was stored when she was 16, so that could have created a habit that anytime something, may not even seem to think that it's related to that experience, but it has enough of a frequency similarity, that our unconscious goes, oh, I know what that experience is about, and I know what emotions to release, and I know what habit helped me get through that. I know what activity I did in order to get through that. So that's what you need to do now, and that's why you take over and repeat these habits that you may not want to do anymore. And we have no idea we're doing it, because it's like whatever happened at 16 has nothing to do with what we just did. You wouldn't even relate it necessarily, but in your unconscious mind and subconscious and unconscious lizard brain, it's like the exact same thing. I'm reliving it. I know exactly what to do. That deer is jumping out, and I know that when I slammed on my brakes, I got through it. So I'm going to slam on the brakes again, even though this time it has nothing to do with the deer jumping out in front of me. But it feels the same, so that's what we're going to do. So so that's kind of how all this stuff works. And let's see if we can get somebody else. Tracy, you would like a release, and it doesn't look like you have. We could try again. Do you have voice capability, Tracy? You're in the chat. So you might just have to type in the chat if you don't have audio. You don't have audio. Okay. So we'll do it through chat. I'm going to go ahead and tap into you. If you have something in the area you really want me to specify, something specific for me to work on, just type it in the chat. But in the meantime, I'm going to just tap into you and see what I pick up, see if it's similar. So again, I'm going to feel things in my body. The first thing I felt is my head is like little oozy. I don't know if you have some sinus things going on, but it was like, ooh, my head just kind of went, and especially right up the pressure right up in here. Oh, yeah, COPD. So maybe some air. Mm. So lung issues. Okay. Okay, so interesting too. I'm getting a number of lung issues lately. When I get batches of things, like I am now, I pay attention to it, especially when I get things in threes, and you're at least three, if not more. But I'm getting a bunch of lung issues right now, so we might want to chat later because I'm doing a lot of work on folks' lungs these days. Some animals, but a number of humans. And we've had some good success in opening up some lungs by removing these trapped emotions. So, again, if your lungs are bothering you, be useful on a scale 1 to 10 where your breathing is at, where 10 is the worst, so we can track if we're noticing an improvement when I release some things. And I do some different techniques than just removing trapped emotions with lungs, and there's two, so they're not equally. They're operating at different efficiencies. So uh, I'm feeling the right lung is feeling, and what I'm seeing is on the lungs are kind of shaped like that on the right side, on the right lung on this side of it. So the inner part, the medial part, is feeling where more of the scarring is and less ability to kind of extend out and in. Um, so that's what I'm feeling and picking up more on the right. The left feels more kind of like the lower half, just the whole lower half is working not at the same ability as the upper part. And that's the other thing that, at least of the several people that I've been working on lately, it seems to be the lower parts of their lungs that I've been experiencing has more issues than the upper part. And maybe that makes sense because if you can't get the full air out, then the lower part would kind of be more congested, I guess, and have more scarring or not be as efficient. So the upper part is still operating more effectively and working harder. Um, so that's kind of what I'm seeing and feeling in the lungs. Uh, so I'm being told we're going to clear on the left lung first. Um, Pride is the emotion. Age 38. And I released that. So it does feel like it's kind of hard to get in a full deep breath. A little discomfort when I really do try and take a full deep breath. So let's try and release something else. Failure is the emotion. 23, age 23. There. I felt a little shift on that. What I want to do, I'm going to do this on your left lung. I'm going to use a different technique. It'll just take me a second, but I'm not going to release a specific emotion. But this is just this is a Cindy technique that I do with some folks. I don't know how else to describe it. It's just something I've learned to do working with folks that I've been guided to do. So let me do this real quick, see if we can't help open up your left lung a little bit more. So hang on. I'll be quiet for a moment for those phone callers. I have to concentrate on this, so hang on. Okay, try taking a deep breath and see if you notice a difference. And if you could type it in on the chat, I'd appreciate it. So Denise also typed in here, oh, some folks are having trouble logging in through Zoom, and I don't know why. But you were able to come call in or enter in the meeting number. Okay. So I don't know if other folks are having trouble. I'll have to investigate that. So I apologize if Zoom is having issues. So Tracy said yes, she feels a little bit better. Uh, So, and Gail asked a question, if you have a lot of people with similar afflictions, is it also universal energy? There definitely could be a collective piece to it. Yes. Uh, and it's also when our intuition, when we're opening up to our intuitive senses and learning, and which to me it's a lifelong learning process, I will get trained or get learning opportunities. And the way I recognize it is I get similar issues in batches of typically threes. Um, I'm starting to notice it faster, so I will, my ears perk up when I get the second one off the bat with similar issues. And then I usually get a third, sometimes a fourth, once in a while a fifth that are very similar, or just a slight variation of it, so that every time I go through these experiences, either I'm given a new technique to try with those people and animals, or I'm just honing in and able to discern more information on what's going on with them. So my learning gets stronger, but I'm being guided because I'll get things in threes quite often, and I'm just getting more evolved and being able to sense what's going on. So in the beginning, it might just be, oh, I felt something in the chest. When I first opened it up to my intuition, it would be much more generic. Then I would get another batch of three, and I go, oh, I think it's a lungs. But it might be both lungs. I wouldn't be able to say left and right. And now it's not just lungs that I'm picking up, but I'm actually starting, like I described with Tracy, I'm able to see where some of the real blockages and in the lungs, so then I can really hone in where to focus that energy work to help open up that healing and release those blockages in that specific area, so that the body's natural healing abilities can get to those places and get more relief. So good question. So anybody else have questions? We want to keep this going here. Um, let's see. Let's see, Denise, I don't know if you have voice capability. You've been chatting. May not, because you were having issues with the app. So, oh, there you are. Hi,
Oh, okay.
welcome.
Hi.
Would you like me to do any releases for you? We've got a few more minutes.
Sure, that'd be great.
Anything specific you want me to do, or just a generic? Or
Um, can you hear Willie whining here?
or does Willie want something? No, this is Mom's turn.
Nothing specific.
Okay, well, it's always good just to generically get, I love to just trust the subconscious. It's the master computer. It knows what your body really needs to release. So it's usually better just to trust it. But, okay. So anxiety is the emotion. On the age it was stuck.
Sure. Past and present.
Yeah. Age 38.
Hmm.
I felt the shift. It was like lodged right at the heart level in your back, in the spine, and it just went pop. Let's see if we can do another one for you. Unworthy is the emotion. Age 19. Hmm. So I'm just feeling like a blockage, energy blockage right under your left ribs on the back, in the back, more in the back than the front. And it's pretty sizable, actually. It feels like it's about the size of maybe a tangerine. Well, yeah, about that size. So I don't know if we can. I don't know how many trapped emotions are there, but I'm just. Let me see if I can open that up a little bit for you. Hopelessness. Helplessness is the emotion. Age 24. Okay, so
I
yeah.
get that spot worked on all the time with the chiropractor.
Okay. So I love working with people before they go to chiropractors, because those trapped emotions are there, and it creates a distortion, and it pushes stuff out of alignment, and you get adjusted. But if the trapped emotion is still there, guess what? It's just going to push that same spot out of alignment. So when I remove those trapped emotions, and then you go to get adjusted, it holds better if it's not there anymore to push back out. So a lot of the adjustments will last longer. If we get rid of all of them, it'll stay in alignment. If there's still some trapped emotions still there, we may go from the tangerine size down to maybe uh, uh, a, a grape size, or maybe something a little bit smaller, and so you get a little bit aligned, but it's still there. So when you have similar trapped emotions, or similar emotions, it has that electromagnetic component to it. So, oh, I'm having more anxiety, I'm having more uh, hopelessness, or lack of control, or whatever the emotion is that's similar, and it's going to go right there, and it'll go back to being a tangerine size, and it'll go right there. Put it out, but it'll buy you more time. Or if we can keep getting rid of it, and so now it's the size of a pea, you might not have that go out of alignment for a long, 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 long time. So getting rid of these trapped emotions really can, before you go to a chiropractor, can really be a benefit for that adjustment to hold longer. And that's a fun thing. Well, not fun, but it's a data point for you to track, to see. I know from my own personal experience, I used to have to go to the chiropractor, especially in the winter when body has really worked hard on my farm in the winter through all the rain and muck and everything. Everything is just harder, and the poop is heavier that I have to rake up. So my back and shoulders go out a lot, or it used to. That was my weak area that had a lot of trapped emotions, and I would have to go to the chiropractor, every 2 to 4 weeks through the winter. Now I might have to go once a year, maybe twice a year when that if that spot goes out, and it's usually because I'm getting more emotions in that I'm trapping in that spot. But I really, and then once I get released, it lasts a long time, and I clear more stuff because I go, oh, I must be collecting too many trapped emotions again. My neck's going out. I release them on myself, and then go to the chiropractor, and it goes right back. Or a lot of times I go, oh, I'm starting to feel that. I better release stuff. And then maybe I'll make an appointment tomorrow. But a lot of times I'll go, oh, I released it. I feel fine. I don't need to go. So I can go a lot longer before I really need that adjustment again, because I'm getting rid of the trapped emotions, and it goes right back into place on its own. So getting rid of these trapped emotions, it's not just an emotional piece, it's a physical piece. So again, I hope you take away some of this, that we're talking mind, body, and spirit, and when we use our words carefully and think about it and become more conscious about how our words work, that they really do matter, and that it affects us not only for habits but physically. I mean, we've had several people that have had physical stuff, but they also create habits. And so when we start seeing them all interfering with our life, it, one of the key things to do is get rid of those trapped emotions. And then we can really hone in on changing the habit, changing the physical stuff that's going on as well. So I think we're almost to the top of the hour. Oh, Tracy has a comment here. When we practice the techniques, are we able to release trapped emotions with ourselves? You can definitely learn how to do this. It's not hard at all. The trapped emotions, it's called, the modality is called emotion code. There's a book by Dr. Bradley Nelson is his name. You can buy the book on Amazon, and I'm not certified to teach you how to do it, but if you have questions and you would like me to help, out on how to do it, I'm happy to answer your questions on how it works, and coaching you, especially coaching on the language. That's not included in the book, but just learning how to use identify the motions. There's just a little, here's my cheat sheet with emotions that I was using. Um, how it's done is explained in the book, and it's very easy. It's just using a muscle test. I was not using a muscle test. I trained myself, but for these webinars, I, I like to use a sway test, which is a muscle test where you sway backwards or forwards. Um, Forward for a true or a yes answer, backwards for a no or a false answer, negative. Um, but on these webinars, I can't stand, so I've trained myself to hear it in my head. The yes and no answers, and it's just as accurate now than as a sway for me. And so there's lots of different ways you can learn how to get to the answers for identifying the emotions on this little chart, little cheat sheet. And you can release them. I love when people learn how to do it for themselves. You can do it more regularly, and it's really healthy for you to do it. And then save using somebody like myself for when you have something that's a little bit harder, that you need somebody with more expertise. And there's times when I can't access something. My lizard brain is so powerful on an issue that I can't access, so I seek somebody else that can help me unlock that door. So that's when you want to use me, is for those times when you learn how to do this for yourself. So absolutely, I highly recommend it for anybody that is interested in learning how to do it for yourself. It really things that I used to have physical issue with now don't bother me at all. So I thank you all for coming on tonight. We're almost at the top of the hour. I hope you enjoyed tonight's webinar. We have some more coming up next month. I have a couple. We'll have an animals and emotions webinar. We'll have another intuitive listening webinar, and actually, we might be having a bonus webinar at the end of the month where it'll be kind of like I had a couple months ago where it was kind of a surprise webinar. I don't have a topic yet. And we may not have a topic. It was one of those intuitive hits that I said, do a bonus webinar. So I said, okay. And so when intuition tells me to do something, I never know what's going to be. Sometimes it doesn't tell me until we're talking live on the webinar. So that's coming up next month. And in the meantime, I hope to hear from you if you have any questions. If you'd like to know more about my services, please go to my website, beananimallistener.com. I recommend people going and starting, if you haven't used any of my services, try my starter package. It entails a 45-minute session where we really can get into some history and doing the full releases, explaining this stuff a little more in detail, do some coaching with you and really help tailor the energy work to your specific needs. And then there's a 15-minute follow-up that you get, another 15-minute session that's included in that starter package. And that 15-minute session is really valuable in helping continue the momentum of your healing. And most people have a question or two that they have from the previous big session and they need some answers for. And then we just clear a bunch more junk out of you and get rid of it. And then that's a really, I like that package, and a lot of people get a good start with that one, which is why it's called a starter package. So if you want more information on that, you can go to my website or you can email me at cindy@beananimallistener.com. And I thank you all for coming on tonight. Have a great evening. I'll see you soon.